Hi, I'm Fran Healy. Ever since the very beginnings of baseball, it's been a game of numbers and statistics. And every year has seen its share of assaults on records. Some made, some broken. Who can ever forget the great Babe Ruth's records being chased for decades before Hank Aaron and Roger Maris finally broke them? And now Nolan Ryan battles it out with Steve Carlton for the strikeout record after they both beat Cy Young's mark. And will George Brett or Wade Boggs become the first 400 hitters since Ted Williams? Well, 1985 is no exception. Even Commissioner Uberoff refers to it as the year of records. So for the next hour, we're going to take a look at three players who began the season with lofty goals in sight. Tom Seaver, Phil Niekro, and Pete Rose. All legends in their own time. His first game ran to first base and hasn't stopped running since. Along the way, compiling a list of records and honors almost unequaled in baseball history, starting with Rookie of the Year in 1960. He's won 3 batting crowns, a National League MVP award, plus a World Series MVP. He's been named Player of the Decade, Athlete of the Decade, and he's a 17-time National League All-Star, and batting records galore. Most seasons 200 or more hits, most seasons 150 or more games, only player in history to play more than 500 games at 5 different positions, and most hits by a National Leaguer, and now in his 23rd season, he has Ty Cobb's all-time record in sight. I spoke with the 44-year youngster at Shea Stadium recently. Pete, when you first came up, how did you feel? Did you expect to achieve what you've been able to achieve?
Well, I was probably in the same situation that you were when you came up. I think when you sign right out of high school, right out of college, you're very excited about being a professional baseball player and hoping you can make it to the big leagues, and all of a sudden something good happens to you in the minor leagues, and you get the opportunity to play in the big leagues, and you make the big league ball club, and I don't think you ever start thinking about playing 20 years or getting 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 hits or winning 200 games or 300 games, and then all of a sudden good things start happening to you, and you stay relatively healthy and playing a lot of games, and first thing you know, 10 or 12 years go by, and you start setting goals. I remember when my first goal was to just make the big leagues. Then the second goal was to stay in the big leagues, and all of a sudden I get lucky enough to make an all-star team, and that's a nice goal to shoot for every year because it means you're having a good year. Then all of a sudden I start getting 200 hits, and I start setting goals to 200 hits, 100 runs scored, and 300 batting average, and play good defense. And all that is great personally, Fran, and all of a sudden you play in a World Series like I did in 1970. So I played in 63, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 before I really realized what you were playing for, and that's the right to go to the World Series. And we went to 70 and we lost in 5 games to Baltimore. Then we had a bad year in 71, and we come back and lost in 7 games in 72 to Oakland. And in 73 we lost the Mets in the playoffs, and in 75 we finally won the World Series for the first time. But I can honestly sit here and tell you that I don't think at any time I ever dreamed about getting 4,000 hits. I didn't even dream about getting 4,000 hits when I got 3,000 hits, because it's just when one guy has did it in the history of this game, I don't think it's really fair for anybody to say, well, I'm going to do it too.
You know, Pete, with all your ability, I heard a story. You can tell me if this is true. Red Davis was the manager I had in the minor leagues. He said he was in the Cincinnati Red organization when you were coming up. He said, with all your ability, the one thing that caught the attention of the major league manager and coaches was when you ran to first base.
Well, I think that may have caught their attention, Fran, because when I run to first base, it didn't stop when I got to first. You know, and I might add that I started doing that when I was 9 years old, when I first played knot-hole baseball, what we call it in Cincinnati. We don't have Little League. And I did it because one day I was watching TV and the Cardinals were playing, and my father was sitting there and watching the game with me, and Enos Slaughter got a base on balls, and he was a very aggressive and hustling type baseball player. And my father says, no, now that's the way to go down to first base. And it's not something I started doing when I become a professional or something I started doing when I got in high school. It's something I started doing when I was 9 years old in organized baseball for the first time. And I think the best word to describe me is not Charlie Hustle, but that name doesn't bother me, but enthusiasm. I think I've been able to keep the enthusiasm for the game, because I've always looked at the game as grown-ups playing a kid's game. And I think if you can continue to play with the enthusiasm of a kid, there's no reason why you should get old.
Talking about kids, what was your life like as a kid? Your father had a tremendous influence on your life.
Certainly. But first of all, for all the listeners out there, and a lot of the guys my age will understand that When I was a kid, we didn't have that much more to do. Summertime, played baseball, and the fall, played basketball and football. There wasn't as many things to do in those days as there is today for the kids. So it probably takes a little more dedication for a kid today to really excel in a sport or anything he may want to do. But I was very fortunate to have a father who was an active player, football player, basketball player, baseball player. And consequently, I was at the age where he was exposing me to all the different sports. And I just grew up loving baseball, loving football, loving basketball, and just playing it. And fortunately for me, my father was a very fundamentally sound player. So at an early age, I started learning how to play the game the right way. And that carried right on into my big league career. And I think I'm a very fundamentally sound player. You know, I make mistakes like everybody else, but I usually don't throw the wrong base, and I usually don't get thrown out at the wrong base. And I've tried to carry that throughout my whole career.
Pete, you've played 5 positions, played 5 positions very well. Now, a lot of players would say, I don't want to move around because it affects my offense.
Well, that happened to me one time, I might add. In 1965 was the first year I made the All-Star team for the first time. First year I got 200 hits for the first time. Next year I went to spring training, and no one asked me did I want to switch from second base to third base. The manager, who was Don Hefner, who was a nice guy, said, Pete, you're going to play third base. Helm's going to play second base. He was a rookie. And I just couldn't sell myself on the point that it's going to help the ball club. I thought it was going to weaken 2 positions because Tommy was always a shortstop, and I figured it'd be easier for him to adjust to third base than me going from second base to third base. And we got off to a bad start, and I was hitting less than 200 for the first month of the season, and Tommy wasn't doing well. And finally, they called us back in. They put Helms at third and me back at second. He won Rookie of the Year, and I end up getting 200 hits and hitting 300 again. But then 1975, I was playing in the outfield, and Sparky called me in the office and said, hey, we got to generate some more offense because our third basemen aren't doing much with the bat. And at the time, that was John Vukovic and Dennis Menke. And I said, what do you want me to do? He said, well, I'd like for you to move from left field into third base and give George Foster a chance to play left field every day. And this is a Thursday, and I said, when would you like for me to do it? He said, tomorrow. And, you know, so in the course of, during the season, I had to make that adjustment, but I could see where it was going to help the team. And then I played third base all those years, and in 1979, when I went to Philadelphia, I moved from third base to first base to give me a chance to play because they had Mike Schmidt there. So I think it doesn't really worry you offensively if you just think it's going to help the ball club.
Pete, does that help you as a manager now when you have to tell somebody, look, I got to switch you?
Well, I think if you think that the player has the ability to make the switch, and I think it's a player becomes more valuable to his manager and to his team if he can play more in one position. Like right now, Nick Osowski, ever since I got Buddy Bell to play third base, Nick was platooning at third base, and he could play first base. And I think Nick is starting to take balls off the bat in the outfield because if you can play more in 1 or 2 positions, it makes your stock go up, as you know. And I can never see where that's going to hurt a player to be able to move to 1 or 2 or 3 positions, because a lot of players get to the big leagues and they end up playing a different position than what they did in high school or what they did in professional baseball.
Pete, you've had just about every thrill a ball player could want. Does any thrill stand out as the greatest?
Yeah, I had 3 of them. 3 World Series rings. Winning the World Series, obviously for the first time, is a big thrill. In 1975, and I had a little icing on the cake because I was the MVP in that series. Then, of course, winning in '76 and going to Philadelphia and winning in 1980. And you know, all the ups and downs of my career are either in playoffs or World Series competition, not regular season competition, not spring training competition, or not all-star competition, but all the ups and downs that I can think of in my career are either a World Series or playoffs.
Pete, how about your consecutive game hitting streak, which really came to fruition right here at Shea Stadium?
It was fun. It was fun because, and there it was getting paid to do something I'm paid to do. That's get base hits. I just haven't do it 44 days in a row. There's some pressure in that because you have to get hit every night. It's not like other things. And, you know, I always thought that the only time you created pressure in baseball is the time element. You know, if you need 8 hits to get 200 and you got a game and a half to go, that's pressure. You know, if someone told you that you needed 2 hits for 4,000, this is your last year, and you had 1 game to do it in, you had to get 2 hits. But as far as the Ty Cobb thing, there's no pressure on me now because I started this season needing 95 hits. But there again, I didn't look at it like that because I have never in my life read about a player having a good year with 95 hits. So I know what the number was, and when I set out to start this season, I was hoping I could get 195 hits. I don't think obviously I won't, but there's no reason why I shouldn't get well over 95.
Pete, we're in New York. You had an interesting incident at second base here at Shea Stadium, crushing Buddy Harrelson.
Well, what that really was, Fran, is it was two aggressive ball players, two players who play to win, playing in a big ball game, and both thought they were right as far as the contact at second base. That's all it amounted to. And Buddy and I are friends now. As a matter of fact, we played with each other in Philadelphia many years after that. And I think because of the situation of the game being on national TV during the playoffs, people have a tendency to make a lot bigger thing out of that than it really was, because it's the same thing with the 70 All-Star game. I mean, I've run into catchers many times in my career, and no one's ever said anything about it. But because 50 million people are watching an All-Star game, or 70 million people are watching a playoff game, it seems to be a lot bigger thing than it really was.
How about your worst moments in baseball?
Well, that's the ups, the downs. Probably the worst moment, was losing the playoffs here in '73, because I felt we had a better team than the Mets. You know, we won well over 100 games, and they were 2 or 3 games over 500, and they went to the World Series, and we went to the TV sets. Probably that situation, or maybe losing the World Series in 1983 to Baltimore, or losing the World Series in 1972. I don't want to say 70 was the worst experience, because I really didn't know what to expect. That was my first World Series I went to, and we just were overmatched because of injuries to the Baltimore Orioles that year. They beat us legitimately. They just beat us.
How about when you left Cincinnati for the first time?
Well, that was a letdown, but not as much as you may think, because I had convinced myself that the people no longer wanted me. And once that was in the back of my mind, it was easy to take a hike. You know, I missed the players, I missed the stadium, I missed the fans, different things like that, but it's tough to work for somebody if they don't want you. And it was obvious to me they didn't want me no more. So it was easy, and fortunately, I had an avenue to go to, and that was a free agency.
How about coming back to Cincinnati?
It was a great moment. It was a great moment when you don't want to leave somewhere and you leave, and all of a sudden you're asked to come back. And you know, that's why I want to do a good job here at Cincinnati, because the people have really supported me tremendously. The 16 years I played there, and of course when I came back last year and this year, and I'm trying to get baseball back to the Cincinnati fans where it once was. And you've been there before, and you know, you understand what I mean. And I think that's the first thing we had to do when we went back there, is turn the whole attitude of the whole city around, not just including the ball club, the front office personnel, and the players on the field.
Have you ever had any doubt about your ability throughout your career? Or were you always
confident? I always was very confident. I always seemed to do things, and always adjusted to situations. Never had really time to think about my ability. You know, I just had so many good things happen to me, and it was so much fun to play the game of baseball. Maybe I never sat down and really thought about, what am I doing? What am I trying to do? And maybe if I had, it might have been a little problem. But you know, I'm very optimistic. You know, I prepare myself right. I just think I was very fortunate at an early age to find out what my capabilities are and what I can do and what I can't do. And I've been able to do the things that I can do on a consistent basis. And, you know, I learned at a very early age I wasn't going to be a home run hitter, that I was going to have to get base hits and score runs and hustle and you know, stretch singles into doubles and doubles into triples and things like that, and just make things happen. And, you know, I've been doing that for about 20-some years.
In your wildest dreams, did you ever think of 4,000 hits?
No. No, all I know is, you know, I was the youngest guy ever reached 2,000, and I got my 3,000th hit May 5th of my 16th year, so I was not quite a month into my 16th year and got my 3,000th hit. But I never, even at that time, I didn't think about 4,000.
And now you have a second career. How's it feel to manage?
It's fun. Whether you're playing or whether you're managing, my goal is the same. That's to try to help the Reds win. Just as a manager, you do it with moves, taking pitchers out, putting pinch hitters in, stuff like that. But as a player, you try to get base hits and make good plays defensively and move runners and things like that. So, but the goal is always the same. That's try to win.
Would you do anything different over your career? Anything?
Over my life?
Baseball career?
No. No, I wouldn't at all. And that's why when I get ready to retire, I'm going to be able to look into a mirror and say, hey, I give it my best effort day in and day out, and I wish I didn't do this in 80 or this in 70 or this in 65, because I've approached every game like it might be my last game, and I have to think that, you know, I've always given a good effort no matter what the situation was.
Are there any other mountains for you to climb?
No, I never looked at it as mountains to climb. It's just, you know, I just try to go out there every day and do a consistent job, and if you do that over the course of 20-some years and you stay healthy, the records are all mount up.
Last question, sum up Pete Rose for us.
Sum up Pete Rose, a winner.